have since welcomed the marginal increases in social grants and introduction of basic income grant and demand that this must be made permanent. The reality is that the post-corona period will take unemployment to above 50% of the people who are capable of working, and with no income, they will need assistance. We also note that the Department of Social Development intends to resuscitate CPS and Net One through a company called govt, and this is against the findings of the Constitutional Court against these entities. The coronavirus must not be used to undermine the courts. Despite this, government has still not come with a clear plan and strategy on the payment of the 350 per person, because millions of unemployed youth who are not in education and training have no bank accounts, and these are the poor of the poorest. We call for a moratorium of 12 months on the houses and car repossessions by private banks, because many people are going to lose their jobs and should not be condemned to absolute poverty and homelessness because of the pandemics that they did not create. We demand that banks must be prevented from house repossessions, because unemployment will soon exceed 50%, and it cannot be justifiable that during a crisis, banks repossess houses and cars of retrenched workers. Instead of enrichment, the white-owned and controlled banks, government should guarantee the mortgage of a crisis. Regulations that prevent evictions during lockdown must be extended for a further 12 months. We call on municipalities to abide by the law and regulations and not act as if they are above the law by conducting illegal evictions. Should any of the municipality officials insist on carrying out evictions when they are prohibited by law, we will go to court and call on the court to make them responsible for damages to personal properties. This is the time to bring the spotlight back to the decent shelter for all. This pandemic showed all of us that high density and unplanned informal settlements are not sustainable. This is an opportunity for society to reorganize itself, its economy, to depopulate informal settlements. Our people are not born in informal settlements. They go there looking for jobs. As part of localization strategy, this is the time to build new factories in places with less infection rate and build with new decent homes. Our people will go and live where there are jobs. To build these new settlement areas, we must use digital construction system technology and leverage on innovation. We can build decent homes with spacious gardens, streets, sanitation, infrastructure, and recreational facilities closer to places of work. Furthermore, we demand universal health coverage through the nationalization of all private hospitals. All our people must be able to access health care to make a profit out of disease and illnesses. We have noted the tragedy of the death of Collins Khoza. Findings made by the Pretoria High Court have indicated that he was severely assaulted by the members of the Defence Force, whilst those of the Johannesburg Metro Police were present but did nothing to prevent the assault. Not many know that since his death, the EFF has been working closely with the family and the legal team to ensure that justice is done, that no stone is left unturned. We will continue on this journey, including challenging the blatant cover-up of the report of the Board of Inquiry released yesterday. The report is not worth the paper it is written on. It is nonsensical. It is repleted with nonsensical findings, contradictions, and evasions. We will continue supporting the Khoza family and the legal team to pursue compensation claim against the government, and if our lawyers advise, we will join the case in our own name as the EFF. Those within the army and the police in South Africa must know that their first duty is the protection and not killing of unarmed and defenseless people. As stated in our previous media statement, the EFF believes that schools must not be opened because the following non-negotiable conditions have not been complied with in the majority of South Africa. A scientific illustration that the spread of the virus has been contained, guaranteed quality healthcare facility and systems for all schools, guaranteed infrastructure for teaching and learning, including additional classrooms which could be converted to public halls, mobile classes, and other safe public spaces, which will ensure that teachers to learner ratio is 1:20. Guarantee social distancing spaces, including assembly points and food retail spaces where human contact will be completely prevented. Complete discontinuation of contact sporting activities, or a well-coordinated system of sanitization and supply of key essentials which must be administered by the Department of Health, because it will be impossible to expect teachers to administer healthcare precautions, added to the fact that their responsibility has now increased. Clean water supply for all schools, guaranteed sanitation, emphatically clean toilets for all schools, including those that did not have toilets before the advent of COVID-19. Safe and reliable public and scholar transport system, which will ensure that learners keep social distance. Introduction of technology which will lessen the time learners spend in physical schools and integrated into technological form of teaching and learning. Maximal usage of technology as a method of teaching and learning should constitute the core of what government adopts as part of the policy and practice of education in South Africa. We, as the EFF, fully respect the right of religious institutions to gather and worship in common spaces. We, however, appeal to all religions with maximum caution and respect of life. Religious leaders who care about the well-being of their people should not rush into religious gatherings because this will compromise the health of their members. Religion and worshiping are not banned in South Africa, and religious leaders know that religious rights can be exercised without gatherings of many people. Government should finalize establishment of state bank, and as we said, African Bank must be the nucleus of the state bank. Private banks have been benefiting from the money of the state, which if there was a state bank, would have been redirected to useful programs of the state. In the immediate, we demand that all social grants and salaries of public servants must be cleared and paid through African Bank, which must be later transferred to fully state-owned and controlled. We make all these demands because we know that in times of crisis, private capitalists will not come to the party. They will not stop their ruthlessness because even when there is no crisis, they treat our people with disdain and ruthlessness. While society is focused on efforts to save lives from the COVID-19 pandemic, Pravin Gordhan, Jamnandas himself, and his cronies are trying to dispense of public assets like SAA and SA Express. This will lead to tens of thousands of workers losing their jobs and livelihoods. There is not a business anywhere in the world that is not facing challenges. This is particularly worse for businesses that were trying to implement recovery strategies. Jamnandas does not believe in state-owned enterprises, and he will never save them. He intends to dispose of them to his friends in the white monopoly capital circles in exchange for futile BEE shares. He must be stopped. To this extent, we shall approach our cause to defend the opportunistic and senseless closure of selling off of these state companies in the name of saving jobs. We have stated our absolute rejection to the premature, reckless, senseless ending of the lockdown. All EFF public representatives, councillors, MPLs, and MPs must continue to conduct oversight work of all government entities through Parliament. In the next weeks, EFF public representatives are called upon to focus oversight on exposing workplaces, schools, universities, places of worship, and public transport where necessary COVID-19 health precautions have not been put in place.